talk about today, and there are many more in the paper. I'm going to talk about the International Comparison Project, whose latest data come from the 2005 round, and about its consequences for the measurement of global inequality and global poverty, and some of the puzzles that have come out of that. I'm going to talk about measuring hunger, and some new insights that come from the polls that have recently been run by the Gallup organization. And I'm going to talk about heights and calories, and some puzzles associated with that. And I'm going to conclude by talking about health and income, and the different picture that health and income paint than if you just look at health or at income alone. So let me start with talking about purchasing power parity exchange rates. So this is, if you like, the traditional component of development, or measurement of development, measuring GDP, or measuring income or consumption. So why do we need purchasing power parity exchange rates? For many people, these are sort of a technical thing that only economists could be interested in, and which ordinary development economists don't have to bother with, and perhaps they're right. Nevertheless, let me talk about why we use them. If you're going to talk about who is poor and who is rich around the world, or to count the number of poor people in the world, or to measure the differences, for instance, what is the ratio of US to Chinese GDP? How much richer is France than Mali? Those are things that people are certainly very interested in. People are interested in the global distribution of income. How far apart are people in the world? How far apart is a herder in Botswana from a factory worker in Britain? And we want to know that between countries considered as units. We want to know it for the citizens of the world. And for all of these, we have to know something about national income, not in terms of local currencies, because as anyone, and I imagine there's no one in this room who has not done so, if you convert money in local currencies, that does not give you a reasonable estimate of what local purchasing power is. When you get off the plane in Kenya and you change your francs into shillings, those shillings are worth much more than the francs were worth in France. So we can't use exchange rates. We have to have something better than that. And that is why we have to calculate purchasing power parity exchange rates, which are exchange rates that take into account the cost of living differences between countries. Now, where do those come from? Now, if you're a practicing economist, most of us academics at least get those data from the Penn World Table, which is a standard database for all international economists. If you like to use the World Development Indicators, which are now freely available to everybody online, then you can get those data from the World Development Indicators, the World Bank. But ultimately, these data are collected by something called the International Comparison Program, commonly referred to as ICP. And what the ICP does is it collects millions of prices in as many countries around the world as who will cooperate with this program, and it uses these to construct price indices for every country. These are called multilateral price indices because they're price indices calculated at once for all the countries of the world. Those are calculated with the item